Nate G219 to help it back and better. Y'all know what it is. Another one coming at you. Told you it's pretty early and I got time for a couple videos. First, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Let these subscribers get up there. I'm up at 511 now. And man, that makes me so happy. I want to keep going though. Get it up there to 511,000. That'd be lovely. Support that channel if you want to help. But like I've promised, something I've been waiting for is a picture of my boy Cleatus. And I know a lot of you guys are probably sick of hearing some of the stories about Cleatus, but I'm going to continue to tell them because one of my main goals right now is to help Cleatus get back into court. Okay? So, originally, Cleatus was sentenced to 118 and a half years, but after paperwork was done and things were corrected, he was, it was reduced to 68 years. And under the old law, that means served 34. So in 2001, 34 years, do the math, 2035. But Paul was, I call Cleatus Paul because that's what he always went by, and it's really hard for me to call him Cleatus because he used to want to kill people, not literally, but he'd want to whoop you. Time out. Time in. He'd definitely want to grab you and mess with you if you called him Cleatus. He hated his first name, but Cleatus is a man that has been through too much in his life. Until the age of 12, he was an abused child. He was beaten by his dad for whatever reason his dad could find a reason to do so. So, he didn't live in Indiana. I didn't know him prior to that. So, when he'd moved to Indiana, first actually he lived in Gary, little white kid in Gary, very rough place. He was picked on in school there, then finally moved to Portage. His mother had married a guy named John, who definitely financially supported Cleatus, but you knew he never loved Paul one bit. There was no real love. And he was there financially, and that's it. And Paul always was looking for a crowd exception. And when he got to Portage, he did find a crowd that accepted him. He became a wrestler, a very good one. His friend Shane, great guy. Gosh, wish I could talk to Shane. I hope he's looking down on this and trying to give Paul some help because we lost him not too long back. Unfortunately, he passed away. But Shane was a very good guy and was Paul's best friend. Well, one of Paul's best friends. Paul had a couple very close best friends. So Paul's other best friend, Jeremy, unfortunately, I can't find that man anywhere, but Jeremy ended up being part of Paul's group later on, but right now we're talking about still middle school. He had a group, great friends, and many who are writing letters to send to me to give to the parole board. I'm going to get them to Paul so that the parole board or courts or whoever has to hear them, read them, gets the opportunity to. Yep, I'm going to hit my douche stick real quick. Still beats cigarettes. It's been over 2 years now since I bought a pack of cigarettes. So I know those aren't great, but I'm working on it. I've slowed down a lot. But anyways, Paul, always seeking, guidance and stuff like that. His stepdad wasn't giving him any guidance. And he lived in an apartment complex that wasn't very big. So a few doors down, he met a guy named TJ. TJ was 35. At this time, Paul was 16, 17. And they developed a friendship. I mean, TJ would get the beer, get whatever Paul wanted. Well, Paul ended up getting kicked out of his house, and one of the guys they knew because of his friend Jeremy was this guy, Robert Nolan. And Robert Nolan had been a Willow Creek Middle School's wrestling coach. Now, Paul didn't know much about him, but the guy had a lot of money, lived in a nice neighborhood, and had a place for Paul to sleep. And so the plan begins. Paul didn't know that, though. Paul just wanted a place to sleep, continued to go to school, which he did. He was homeless for 2 weeks, going to school still, couch hopping, and, you know, he was still going to school. He never gave up. He was a junior in high school. This was May of 2001. So while he's living with Mr. Nolan, TJ Forbes, the genius, the mastermind, the idiot that manipulates and just he's a piece of work. He comes up with a plan to unalive Mr. Nolan. Now, evidence came out on January 1st. Mr. Nolan was charged with 3 counts of kitty fiddling. 2 or 3 counts, I don't remember. I know there was 8 felonies. It doesn't matter. 1, 5, it doesn't matter. And then found out that his best friend, Jeremy, had been being taken advantage of as well. And a lot more. Very bad things. A felony is 20 to 50 years. You don't just get charged with 8 felonies in the county of Porter unless they've got the evidence, because they're just not going to do that. Well, TJ comes up with this wonderful plan to get Paul a weapon and bunch of concrete, drywall, 2x4s, you know. They're going to build a wall with concrete behind it with Mr. Nolan entombed inside. So Paul arrives to the basement and he does the deed, and Mr. Nolan or Mr. Forbes comes and cleans up and does the construction. They build a wall behind him, but oh my goodness, Mr. Forbes has a conscience. And Paul does too. It's haunting Paul. Paul feels horrible. He was sick. He just didn't know, you know, he'd never done anything like that. They'd been running a little escort service. Of course, been in a few fights. He was a great wrestler. But as far as unaliving somebody, never experienced anything, seen anything like that. I mean, a horrible, horrible situation. So, Forbes' plan, you know, comes through. They get away with it. But Forbes' conscience tells him to go to talk to his buddy, who's a Portage police officer, Roger Peel, and tell him what had happened. So, of course, later that day, Paul's at school, and detectives come in, police come in, and arrest him. Well, TJ spilled the beans. So they were both sentenced to a lengthy time. 118 and a half years, but like I said, things were reduced because of conspiracy and murder. Same thing, just can't happen. But Paul, he was a junior in high school. He did not have a high school education, GED, nothing. He didn't know any better. He was listening to jailhouse lawyers. They were telling him to withdraw that plea agreement, that they can't find him guilty of both of those things. Withdraw that plea agreement. It's your best interest. He withdraws the plea. Now, because of the law that he falls under, I would have to dig it out, and that's not going to be an interesting video. But it basically states that he should not have been legally allowed to withdraw the plea once it was signed because of the lack of education. Now, his attorney wasn't explaining anything. Peter Boyle's horrible attorney. He might as well be a clerk. A public pretender at the fullest. Paul tried to fire him. They weren't allowing him to fire his attorney. All they did was appoint a special public defender, Mr. Gary Gurman, who then withdrew from the case due to personal reasons that he would rather not say to the court. Now, what those personal reasons are beyond me. The problem is now Gary Gurman is the lead prosecuting attorney. One of the people have told Paul that he will never get a sentence modification. So they're predetermining that there's nothing that he can do. He's going to be in there until 2033. A little less than that when his time cuts go through. The problem is, had they not let him withdraw that plea like they shouldn't have, he would be home this year. He would have spent this Christmas home. Probably a few Christmases ago. But because he was just given lack of proper counsel, and counsel that didn't care, now counsel that's the lead prosecutor, who I would have actually thought was, at one point he was a great attorney around here, but one of the greatest at that. Now, Forbes files a couple sentence modifications and was denied and was denied and was denied. And then finally, he was denied he was denied in 2018. All right. His earliest possible release date was around the same time as Paul's. But he went home 2019 because the judge who denied his pleas less than a year prior to this let him go because his mom was in bad health and needed somebody to care for her. So, and I'm not saying who cares, because you definitely should care that your mother and taking care of your mother. But unfortunately, Paul's lost his mother while he's been inside. In the state of Indiana, you don't go to a funeral. No chance in hell that you get to go to the funeral. This man's had 2 visits since 2000. Well, since he's been in prison, since 2008 was his last visit. I know that much. I can't speak on exactly how many, but I believe he said he's had 2 visits, and the last one was in 2008. Now, I did just in the last week get approved to go visit him, but then I wrecked my car on Christmas Eve. So hopefully I figure something about that in the next couple days or next week because of the new year. But I'm going to be going to visit this man soon. But back to TJ Forbes. So why does this man get out? This man manipulated a young child, a young kid, young teenager, into doing an unthinkable crime, assisting him, planning it, providing. It did everything but squeeze the trigger. He used Paul as a tool. And Paul it was just unfortunate that he was led to believe and manipulated that he was doing the right thing. Now, thankfully, the person that they did unalive was who he was, because man, oh man, he was charged with some very, very bad things, and those things that although wasn't convicted because he never had a chance, I definitely full-heartedly believe that he had done them. I'm trying to figure out exactly what the charge was. Hold on, give me 1 second, bear with me. Okay, I'm not going to find it right now. It's going to take me too much time to find. But, I mean, the proof was there, and the man didn't deserve to breathe oxygen. He'd been a Willow Creek, or a middle school's wrestling coach at one point in time. Just a sickening, sickening situation. But hey, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's story. Never forget life's choices, guys, because, you know, you can be manipulated by a piece of crap Forbes. And, I mean, as you see in that mugshot, Cleatus looks like a very young, handsome fella. I'm going to attach his information in there in case any of you ladies want to write him. Please do. I'm sure he would love that. Just having contact would mean the world to the man. But I'm going to try to get this GoFundMe going now that I've got a picture, and we're going to get this dang thing going. But never forget life's choices. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, donate to that channel if you want. And you know, if they ain't hating it, you ain't making it.